Welcome to Season 3 of Far Reach Voyages, where we share our love of sailing and adventure travel. Today's day 5. About 1400. We're 24 north, 72, 40 west. Made about 140 miles last night, or yesterday, last 24 hours. Winds have already started to lighten up. Still pretty good sailing. Cumulus clouds all around, although they are starting to show some vertical development. I think we might see some thunderstorms this evening, certainly some squalls and rain. We've come about 600 miles. We've got maybe 700 to go. Depends on how far south of the plumb line I continue to sail. It's been pretty good sailing. We are expecting the wind to drop off though the next couple of days. Although I should have a little bit more wind than if I'd sailed the rum line straight out across the Atlantic from St. Thomas to North Carolina. So it's a little bit further, but we should have a little more speed. I think it works our advantage to go this way. However, on the weather this morning, I heard that there's a significant system developing in the U.S. coming off of the Carolina coast and Georgia and South Carolina sometime on Wednesday, which is about when I'd be crossing the Gulf Stream. And the long-range forecast shows a northern wind component, lightning, gusts to 50 knots. And that northern component is not something you want to mess with in the Gulf Stream. So I don't know exactly what that means right now. It's still 6 days just off, 5 days. We'll just have to kind of continue on our course and see. In the meantime, it's been pretty good. And you can probably see in the background and off to the side here is some sargasso. We've moved back into a patch of sargasso last night and today, which trips the Windvane. Aggravating and frustrating, but there's not really much you can do about it except have an autopilot. So all in all, we're doing fine. The sargasso precludes any fishing now. The lure would just be a tangled mass of weed all the time. Plenty of time to think and read and contemplate. About 1500 on the 14th of June. Cumulus clouds, some vertical development. I think we might see some activity this evening. I'm back in the back there. It'll be coming down our way. It's gotten a little bit closer. The water's a beautiful cobalt blue. Pretty easy sailing. Taking 5 to 6 knots. We don't use Dodger or permanent bimini on the Far Reach. We just tie up what we need. And I like to keep the cockpit open most of the time so I can see the sails, but in the heat of the tropics, sometimes I rig this up in the afternoon or noonday sun. Cape Horn Windvane, always a champion. Doing its magic. In many ways, the Far Reach is sort of an old style cruising boat. Not a lot of gizmos on her. It's the way we like her. Nice and simple. Our boat's different than a stock Cape Dory 36 in so many ways. She was built from a bare hull, so the hull and the deck and the port lights are about the only thing original to the boat. Everything else has been modified or replaced. The spars, 4 feet taller, double spreader rig. Carries a lot more sail area than a stock 36. Whole deck joints glassed over. We added the 6.5 inch tall bulwarks. Boat's watertight. Welded all the brackets. My best friend welded those for me. Thanks, Funk. Converted wheel to tiller. Most people go the other way. Only instrument we have in the cockpit is a compass. There's no chart plotter per se on the far reach. Our 9-foot fatty knees, kerosene nav lamps. All of our halyards terminate at the mast. This is our preventer, which we run all the time. You can control it from right here. And I run another preventer with 2 on there. One's actually kind of like a vang, and the other one going forward is more like a preventer. The spar is the dinghy mast stored vertically on the aft lower. Splice rigging that I taught myself to do from Brian Toss's book, The Rigger's Apprentice. Our staysail, ready to go into action. Hank-on jib, no furler. There's a lot of technique to sailing with Hank-on sails that have sort of been forgotten since the ubiquitous furler. Different style bowsprit than a stock 36, which has a platform style 18 inches long. This is 48 inches long, longer J. Spritchards, sculling oar over here on the port side, which we do use. 30-inch tall stanchions. It's the dinghy boom right there, vertically stowed. So mast on that side, dinghy boom on this side. Staysail sheet leads are fixed, and we adjust the leads by basically shortening or lengthening the pendant at the tack fitting. Our one solar panel, which is in the shade right now, 30-watt panel, provides all electricity for the boat. Our trysail, storm trysail, which we've never had to use in anger. Boom gallows. Spray dodger, a pram hood, homemade. We built all this from a bare hull. It's a vertical V-groove African mahogany, black walnut cabin sole, completely removable in 5 minutes, the entire cabin sole. Most of the cabinetry can be removed in parts. The sink cabin will come out in 10 minutes. Icebox nav station. This is where you'll see there's no chart plotter here. We have a little handheld GPS. But we've been doing most of our navigation this trip with Celestial, Plas Sextant. Mostly, I haven't taken a sun shot yet, all-star shots. Our AIS, we do have a little GPS on that. Bilge pump, watch seat. 2 settees, pilot berth. I've been sleeping on the port side so far. The ship's bell, clock, and barometer were off of our family boat when I was a child. So I kept them and installed them on the far reach. Head compartment, which we removed all the doors, obviously completely rebuilt all this. Sits tub, toilet box, double berth. Opened up the bow compartment to give it more airflow and make it feel bigger. The import cabin. Raised panel, bird's eye maple cabinet doors, ash countertops, a reflex heater, hinged saloon table, storage where the engine used to be, the inboard. This is now 8 feet deep, 3 feet wide, and 2 feet tall. And the anchor locker is below all that. I don't think I can lift it up in there, but all that lifts up, and there's 3 anchors and a bunch of chain stowed down below. Galley. That's pretty much it. Delighted with how she turned out. What a great sailing boat she is. Surprisingly fast. And spend a lot of time just standing here. Well, that's a quick down and dirty tour of the Far Reach. My place of deep thinking, I guess. Beautiful view. I've not seen many ships this trip. I thought I would see more. San Salvador is that way, about 50 miles, as we work our way up the east side of the Bahamas to try to keep into the wind. Further east of us, there's even less wind. Actually calling for almost no wind, but if we stay close, Chris Parker at Marine Weather Center thinks we'll have wind the whole way. No, not much. We'll have some. And it's a diurnal pattern, so we should have a little bit more wind at night and a little less during the day. But I have not seen any ships. We might when we cross the opening to New Providence Channel. I mean, we won't be right at the channel. We'll probably be 80 miles offshore, but there might be some ship traffic coming out of New Providence Channel from Nassau and points west. That's it for now. Look who popped up this morning. Harmony in the Sea. Look like the 3rd largest passenger ship or largest ship in the world. CPA of about 2.1 miles. It's a big ocean, but not that big. Day 6. Crazy night last night. That'll have to wait for another couple hours. Gotta listen to the weather. The sun awning is going to take a couple of minutes to rig. But while that's going on, let me tell you about what happened the previous night. Well, two things happened. One thing small and another potentially big. The small thing is the Cape Horn Windvane acted up. Now, at least anyone believe I think less of the vane, you can forget that right now because I'm a big Cape Horn fan. But there's a challenge with the vane. The first is there are two pins on the servo blade that fit into two notches in the stock. And the second is a shock cord pulls them together to keep tension between the pins and the notches. If the servo hits something, the shock cord stretches and allows the servo to flip up so it does not get damaged, which is, of course, a good thing. It's a pretty simple system. But it's an imperfect system, however, when facing the Sargasso Sea because the waters there are ate up with Sargasso. You'll learn more about Sargasso in another episode. When the vane trips in the middle of the night and the far reach is running downwind, she suddenly slews around and rounds up, and it's a dynamic event to say the least. I'm jolted awake from a dead sleep. Still half asleep, I grab my headlamp and I quickly make my way to the fantail and lay down on the deck and use the light from the headlamp. I reach over the stern and reattach the vane. The two preventers hold the boom secure, but it takes a bit to get it all sorted out. And then we're back in business. Last night, starting about 1 in the morning, the vane tripped a couple times. When I checked it closely after the second or third time, I noticed the shock cord was shredded. I hove to for maybe an hour and a half and removed the servo blade and took it below. I broke out my tools and filed the notches a little deeper and reeved new shock cord, and then we got back underway. But this problem plagued me till I got home and developed a better solution. The second bigger issue is, well, I'm almost out of time for this episode, but I'll explain it in the next one. And to build a little interest, I tell you it's one of those things that can weigh on the mind of a single-hander and can be a serious issue, but you'll have to wait to find out. Now we got shade. In the next episode, I'll describe how I downloaded WeatherFacts. What I've been doing is taking the boat hook, and our struggle with Sargasso continues. Slide it down there, pulling it off. If you enjoyed this episode of Far Reach Voyages, let us know in the comments. Also, consider liking and subscribing, as it tells us you would like to see more videos, and it helps the channel grow. See you next episode.